How do you know what is true? I was thinking I would ask that question and just pause long enough to see if anyone would reply. And then say, is that the right question? Though, I was thinking about it all week, and here's why I'm asking the question about the question, is that my blog this week, I started with the question, how do you know who or what to believe? It's hard to know who or what to believe. And I was thinking about that, and I thought, I wonder if that is in fact the right question to ask. Because it presumes something. It presumes that you already know the answer to the first question I asked. How do you know what's true? And see, I said that, and thank you for probably the best example. Check Twitter. It's not called that anymore. And I think you said, what's in your heart? You win. Sorry. But that's kind of the point, though, of the question of how do you know what is true? Because we live in a world where what you believe and what is true is not necessarily the same thing. Not necessarily the same thing at all, in fact, because we also live in a world where people can decide their own facts. In fact, we live in a world where there are people who can say something so completely ridiculously outlandish that you think, how can they even say that out loud? And there is a whole room full of people who will believe them. In fact, 48% of the population, in some cases, or more, because it depends on where you are in the world, and it depends on who the leader is, who the person is, how do you know that person is saying what is true? How do you know when you watch the news what is true? How do you know when you read X, Twitter, whatever we're calling that now, how do you know what's true? When you look on the internet and you discover that somebody you went to high school with, but they dropped out in grade 10, appears to know more than a scientist with 40 years of experience and 5 degrees. How do you know what is true? Because you're not actually asking that question, are you? You're simply answering the question, what you believe. Because we choose to believe based on certain criteria. Things like, who said it? Things like, does it agree with what I've already decided? Or does it challenge me? Because we don't like to be challenged. Particularly if it's something that has been a long-held belief. We don't like change. What we do like is to listen to somebody who's raging about something that we're already annoyed about because it affects us. Sorry? Me. And the thing is, we can talk for a long time about how we are very much a me-first society, globally even, to varying degrees. But the thing about that is, we're not always a me-first kind of thinking people for bad reasons. Sometimes we're just being me first because it's safe, right? It's safer. We feel protected if it's responding to our perceived needs, right? We feel better about that. We like that. We certainly don't like things to hear things that we're afraid of. We'd rather hear about how we're going to deal with those things that we are afraid of. And if you say you can take away those things that I'm afraid of, I like that. Oh, it's going to hurt other people. That's okay. I like it anyway, because it protects me. I'm not going to think about that part. See, our criteria for those things tends to be how you news that I'm hearing are addressing my needs. Not the needs of others, but my own needs. It's things like, what am I comfortable with? Am I going to have to learn more? I don't want to. Because we, by and large, don't want to know more. We like where we're at. And if we don't like where we're at, we certainly like that guy who's raging about how he's going to fix, or she is going to fix, where we're at. Especially if it involves power. Because if I can support that, and it has power, then I have power too. I've affected things. I like that. What do you mean he just made it up? No, he didn't. It's real. I know because I perceive it that way. See, I can create my own facts. I can make things real for me. I know they're real because so-and-so said it. And I like their personality, their title. I like what they look like. I like the clothes they wear. They're really cool. I dress that way. Ooh, that person looks just like me. I'll buy into that. I haven't once yet considered anything deeper than superficial things. And I certainly haven't considered anything beyond, I certainly haven't considered ego or anything like that. So you're saying I should go deeper then. But that's work. That's work. And then I have to think about it and stuff. And I like it so much better when someone just tells me. It's easier. It's simpler. Do you know what's even cooler? Is when I can take advantage of that situation and not just dismiss what's being said by people who have things like experience and intelligence and they know things. They've spent time learning and digging into things and finding out things. I can not only dismiss that, I can actually belittle them and make it sound like they're elitist and I don't need them. Because, you know what? They're not me. What do you mean? They're better than me? Is that what you're saying? I don't need that. Not once have I started to think about what might be true. I have answered the question, what do I believe? And who do I believe? Because I've established criteria for that. But I haven't answered the question, what's true? How do you know what's true? If you're having trouble with that question, just ask Jesus, because he ran into a lot. One minute, people will be talking about how Jesus speaks with great authority. It's amazing. How does he know this stuff? Isn't that just amazing? Some might even think it's a gift from God. And then the next minute, who do you think you are? We know you. You're the guy from down the street. You're from here. We know your family. You're a carpenter. Probably the jury's still out on that, by the way. He could have been just a general contractor. But still, we know who you are. How do you know this stuff? One minute, the Pharisees are dismissing Jesus as some sort of a sort of ignorant rural person who doesn't know anything because he didn't go to school. And the next minute, people are saying, how amazing is that? Because he appears to be so genuine and authentic. That's where his authority seems to come from. That is actually exactly where his authority comes from. Being authentic and genuine. Because being true means being true to the good that is in you. What is true and genuine and authentic is that which gives life. That helps us grow, that helps us live into the good which is in us. It's not superficial. It's deep. And sometimes it can involve a lot of digging. Because things get in the way. Things like ego and selfishness. The experiences we have in the world even make it hard for us to want to do anything but follow along with where that's going. And that isn't necessarily the good road. Jesus wants us to go deeper. Jesus invites us to go. Jesus shows us how to go deeper, to ask questions, to want to learn. It's not just about the asking questions part. I could have started with that and just stopped right there, couldn't I? If you really want to know, you should ask questions and find out. But it still didn't answer the question, because you could ask the questions of your friends on Twitter and Facebook. You could read all the stories on the internet and still not have what's true. Because there's something more to that. It's not just about acquiring information. It's about connecting with what is true, what's authentic, what's genuine, what is genuinely who we are. That's when I think whenever I say Jesus lives a life that shows us how to live into the good that is in us, that is exactly what I mean. We are good. There are things that get in the way, yes there are, but the deeper we go, the more likely we are to be in touch with that true self, that authentic good that is in us. Do you find that on Twitter and Facebook, in the news, when politicians talk? I should have stopped before the last one. Because the other ones, yes, it is actually possible. That is what makes it so tricky. And why being discerning is so important. It's important to not simply go, oh, so-and-so said it. Or, I saw it on this page. I read it in this book. That's just the very beginning. Because then you have to think about it. It's kind of like me standing up here and talking on a Sunday morning. If you go away thinking, well, Robin said this, so it must be so. No. That doesn't make it so. What makes it real and what makes it true is that you thought about it, you looked into it, you wondered about it, you spent some time discerning what might be true. That's what makes it true. Is eventually we get there. Eventually we get there. Sometimes it takes some time. Sometimes it's hard because we are constantly bombarded with all of the other stuff. especially when there's an election on. We get bombarded by stuff. Especially when there's a sale on, we get bombarded by stuff. It's in everything, isn't it? The way we've constructed our society makes it so hard to get past those things and dig deep enough to find what's true. But it's there. And that's the truth of the story we got here today. Jesus encounters people who clearly are not prepared to believe what he's capable of, what he's saying, what he's showing them, because they know who he is. He's a nobody from down the street. He's not better than us. What does he know? Well, he knows this. In the very next moment, he's sending his followers out to teach people, to essentially be Jesus to them. And what he tells them to take is absolutely nothing, except themselves and the story that they have to tell. Because it's true. They don't need all the superficial stuff, so don't take that. You don't need it. All you need is what is true to share with people. And let's also be real here, because Jesus is. He's aware enough that people are not all going to receive them with open arms. And he acknowledges that. So even if everyone here takes the time to dig deep enough to find what is true, not everyone is going to believe that. Not everyone is going to accept that. Not everyone is going to follow that. So what do you do? What do you do then? Well, Jesus says, move on. Move on. Because there's always people to encounter. There's always experiences to have. There's always opportunities. There's always challenges. Live into that. That's the diversity of the world in which we live. It's both what makes the truth, what is true, such a great opportunity for us to find, and also such a great challenge for us to find. We're always seekers. The Spirit that Jesus is always talking about, the Spirit is what moves us in that direction, what empowers us, inspires us to seek what is true.